You know how every family has that one golden child? The prodigy, the trophy. The walking LinkedIn post, yeah, and mine. There were two my cousins. One's now some finance bloke who wears loafers without socks and talks about markets like they're endangered animals. The other one's a lawyer who can probably sue a tree for defamation and win. And then there was me, the creative one. The oh, she's doing that art thing one. The bless her heart, at least she's persistent. One translation, the disappointment with a sketchbook, while they were off doing internships at hedge funds and practicing courtroom smirks in the mirror. I was lugging around models made of cardboard and trying to convince people that yes, architecture is a real degree. And no, I don't just draw houses at every family gathering. I was introduced like a cautionary tale wrapped in a polite smile. This is our niece, she's doing architecture. I think yes, Aunt Sheila. Still, it didn't turn into accountancy over the weekend. There was always this look, the one where they tilt their head slightly, squint like I was a stray cat who'd wandered in from the rain and ask, "So, are you still doing your little consulting thing, As if I was selling recycled furniture out of a shed. But I smiled every single time. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that nothing terrifies people more than a struggling creative who looks like they might be enjoying it, of course. Behind the scenes, it wasn't quite sunshine and TED Talks. I was hustling hard freelancing consulting, scraping together green architecture projects, while quietly eating pasta out of mugs. Because all my plates were being used for mood boards, glamorous stuff truly, and while my cousins were posting photos from some rooftop networking event with the hashtag. The grind never stops, it should, honestly. I was just trying to find a client who wouldn't pay me an exposure. And homemade chutney, the worst part. The pity, that syrupy, slow-dripping, soul-crushing pity. Once my aunt offered me a job, not at her company, no. Too risky, but at her friend's son's office. As a junior assistant to the assistant planner, I believe. The role also involved making tea and absorbing daily humiliation. Through osmosis, you'll get real-world experience. She chirped what she meant was, "Please stop embarrassing the family tree." At weddings, I was seated next to the DJ. At Eid, I was handed the disposable plates and told, "You don't mind helping, do you?" At birthdays, my gift was usually unsolicited career advice from someone whose proudest achievement was buying a Advidian sedan, a Honda Civic on installments. But here's the twist they didn't see coming. While they were all busy writing off my future, I was quietly building it, plotting, planting little green seeds of revenge, literally. Because behind the mockery and mild depression, I had an idea, a company. A vision for eco-friendly architecture they couldn't spell, let alone steal, and one day, oh one day, the very same people who looked down on me would end up sitting across from me in a conference room, trying to impress me, but we'll get there. For now, just picture me broke, exhausted, paint-stained sleeves, clutching a mug of budget coffee and whispering to myself, "Keep going, one day they'll need you and you'll charge them double." All family events, the sacred rituals of emotional sabotage disguised as social bonding. Nothing like being emotionally filleted by people who share your DNA and think that gives them clearance to critique your entire existence over Biryan and a soft drink. You haven't truly experienced humiliation until you've stood in a hallway holding a paper plate full of samosas while your uncle leans in and whispers, "Still doing that freelancing thing, must be nice to have free time." Free time, I haven't slept properly since the last time I had dental insurance. But of course I smiled like a hostage. Because if you're not smiling at these things, you're either crying in the downstairs loo or silently planning your escape through the kitchen window. The cousins would arrive dressed like a Zara ad and reeking of unjustified self-confidence. One of them once asked if I was still working from cafes. I was. Because they had Wi-Fi central heating, and no. Family members asking me if I considered switching careers every 5 minutes. But the highlight, the award-winning BAFTA-serving moment, was my aunt, a woman who treats constructive criticism like it's a competitive sport. She pulled me aside at a wedding because nothing screams career intervention like a floral marquee and a Bollywood DJ. And with the grace of a venomous snake wrapped in pearls, handed me her business card. "Sweetheart, if you ever want a real job." A real job. She said it the way one might say if you ever want to stop shoplifting or joining cults. I took the card, smiled, sighed thank you, and then used it later that evening as a coaster for my gin and my last shred of patience. It now lives permanently stuck to the bottom of my desk, fused by the rain of despair, left by cheap tonic water and generational trauma. Meanwhile, the family would gather around the lawyer cousin like he was Moses descending from corporate Mount Sinai. Tell us again how you negotiated that contract with the Americans they coup practically massaging his LinkedIn profile with their eyes. And me I once got applauded for still trying. Still trying. Like I was one parking ticket away from giving up and selling handmade soap on Instagram. At Eid, my mom introduced me to a distant relative with, "This is my daughter, she's very passionate about green things." Thanks, Mom, I sound like I sniff houseplants for a living. The irony, of course, is that I was actually doing well. Not flashy successful, but solid. My work mattered. My projects were sustainable, thoughtful, not that anyone asked. But apparently if your job doesn't involve a swivel chair, Excel in a 4-letter abbreviation on your payslip, it doesn't count in this household. Still, I showed up, smiled, laughed at their jokes. Let them call my work cute. Because that's what we do. We endure, we perform. We quietly survive these glorious circuses of selective memory and self-congratulatory smugness. But oh, how the tables were already beginning to turn. And none of them saw it coming. So while the family continued treating me like a well-meaning disappointment, you know? Like someone who might one day accidentally make something of themselves, I was, quietly and conveniently, succeeding. 5 years ago, after one particularly soul-draining family dinner where someone asked me if I thought about becoming a teacher instead, I did something radical. I co-founded Verdant Form. Yes, that's the name. Sounds like a fancy salad, but it's not. It's a boutique green architecture firm with enough sustainable credibility to make Greta Thunberg nod in approval. Well, maybe. She's a tough crowd. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. We didn't do influencer partnerships or LinkedIn humble brags. There were no Instagram reels of me dramatically clicking pens over blueprints. Just me, 2 incredible partners, and a slowly growing pile of eco-friendly, ethically sourced receipts. Verdant Form was our love letter to the planet, and a passive-aggressive memo to every relative who thought I peaked at helping redesign the school library in uni. We focused on real impact, green building codes, sustainable materials, energy-efficient everything. We were doing the kind of work that people only noticed after it made a TEDx talk, and even then, only if it had subtitles. And the best part? Nobody in my family had a clue. Not one. I could have been running an illegal fern smuggling ring for all they cared, because I never posted about it, never bragged, never sent them links to my projects, mainly because they wouldn't have clicked them unless they contained gossip or a discount code. And honestly, I liked it that way. There's a quiet joy in building something powerful while everyone assumes you're still living off beans and broken dreams. Every time someone at Eid asks me, "So are you still consulting?" I just nod and say, "Yep, still consulting." Still consulting. Translation, I'm consulting CEOs. While you try to fix your Wi-Fi by yelling at the router. We started landing serious projects, hotels, urban renewal zones. That one NGO that made us sign an NDA so thick. I wasn't sure if we were designing a building or a secret lair for a Bond villain. Either way, it was money, ethically sourced, sustainably invoiced money. And yet, I told no one. Not out of humility, mind you. Please. I'm not a saint. I fantasize daily about revealing everything with a dramatic PowerPoint presentation and a spotlight. But it wasn't time. I wanted the reveal to be right, delicious, petty. I was waiting for the moment they need something from me, and that moment, as fate would have it, was already booking itself into my Google Calendar. Until then, I kept sipping my flat whites, sending off proposals, and occasionally screaming into a pillow. Because bureaucracy is still hell, even when it's biodegradable. I was building a quiet empire. An empire made of bamboo, solar panels, and the kind of poetic revenge that composts slowly and hits hard. But don't worry, the conference room moment is coming. And when it does, let's just say, the architecture won't. So there I was on a Thursday morning, already halfway through my third coffee and existential crisis of the day, when our lovely HR manager pings me. She goes, "Hey, 2 brilliant CVs just landed in the inbox for senior sustainability roles. Think you'll want to be involved in the interviews?" Standard, I nod along, fully expecting some Cambridge overachiever who eats quinoa for breakfast and calls their mum Deborah. Instead, she drops the names. My cousins. My actual cousins. The golden boys of the family WhatsApp group. The ones whose LinkedIn profiles read like motivational posters in a corporate gym. I stared at the screen like it had personally slapped me with a scented sandal. I even zoomed in as if somehow their names would rearrange themselves into something less absurd like Tom Holland or a bad dream. But nope. There they were in bold with flowery cover letters, waxing lyrical about their lifelong passion for sustainable development and personal commitment to ethical design. Personal commitment. Mate, the last time you showed personal commitment was to a protein shake subscription and a borderline toxic relationship with your Apple Watch. Oh, karma. You cheeky, petty, poetic little queen. For 10 years I've been the family's cautionary tale. The walking before picture. The one they all lovingly forgot to ask follow-up questions about. And now, those same cousins were unknowingly begging for jobs at the company I co-founded. My empire, my rules, my conference room, my snacks. I reread their CVs like they were ancient scrolls. Education top-notch. Experience impressive. References glowing. But nowhere, and I mean nowhere, did they mention the time one of them told me, "Maybe you should try UX design, it's easier, less architecture." Oh, how the plot thickens. Like badly made soup or family loyalty when money's involved. HR was already fawning over them, of course. They seem like such a great cultural fit. Yes, if by culture you mean smug brunches and unsolicited TED Talk recommendations. Now let me be clear, I wasn't out for blood. I'm not vindictive. I'm evolved. I'm adulting. But did I also immediately schedule their interviews and clear my entire calendar just to be there in person? Absolutely. Did I ask HR to keep my identity as founder quiet for now, just to see how far this ironic farce could go? Oh yes, with the glee of a villain who's just found out the hero is allergic to sunlight. I didn't need revenge. I had relevance. I had power. And most importantly, I had a front row seat to the delicious unraveling of 2 very cocky family trees. They were about to walk into a company they didn't know. I owned apply for roles they assumed were above me and pitch me ideas I probably designed in my sleep 4 years ago. And I would be sitting across the table smiling, politely sipping eco-friendly sparkling water and mentally preparing a TED Talk titled, "How to Survive Being the Family Failure and Then Accidentally Become Their Boss." Because sometimes the universe doesn't just give you closure. It gives you a hiring decision. Now here's the thing, and I say this with all the forced maturity of someone who's watched a lot of therapy reels on Instagram. I didn't block them. I didn't delete the applications. I didn't even forward their CVs to the family group chat with the caption, "Ooh, I'm an adult now. A professional. A grown-up with a favorite brand of sparkling water and a highly curated Pinterest board for office revenge, but make it tasteful." So instead, I approved both interviews. I even did it with a straight face. HR was thrilled. "You'll be leading the interviews as our lead sustainability consultant, right?" Oh yes, lead consultant. The role they all assumed meant freelancer with no retirement plan. Now suddenly it meant person who might decide your future while wearing tailored linen. And then, because I'm a giver, I had one more tiny, barely visible suggestion. Let's offer them slightly under their expected salary bracket, you know? Just to test for humility. Look, I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to be educational. Character building. A live-action TED Talk on the value of eating humble pie served cold and garnished with a performance-based probation period. My rationale? If they were as brilliant and adaptable as their CVS claimed agile, resilient, driven by values, then surely a little salary. Dip wouldn't send them into moral collapse. Spoiler alert, it did. But we'll get there. Back to the setup. HR drafted the interview invites. I added my name at the bottom with just the title, no last name, no clue. They'd walk into that conference room thinking I was some overpaid consultant, brought in to vet talent. They'd pitch their big sustainability-soaked ideas to me, blissfully unaware they were asking permission to join a company I helped build, while they were busy mocking my LinkedIn, headshot and family group chats. The petty satisfaction? Immaculate. The restraint? Oscar-worthy. I could have written a 12-slide presentation titled, "Tumsy mocked me and now need me," and just slowly clicked through it during the interview. But no, I chose to play the long game, to remain calm, cool, compostable, like bamboo cutlery, elegant, sustainable, and slightly sharp if used wrong. Because the real flex wasn't the title. It wasn't the office or the salary band or the fact that my chair had lumbar. Support and theirs didn't. The real flex was sitting across from them, polished, prepared, unbothered, while they performed a circus of corporate desperation, right into the hands of the family failure. Honestly, revenge never tasted so organic. And don't worry, the moment they found out who they were really talking to, it was greener than the buildings we design. But that, my dear viewer, is a whole new shade of satisfying, and it's coming up in interview day. The air was thick with anticipation, espresso, and the faint stench of recycled confidence. I was early, obviously. Power move number 1. Sat right in the center of the conference. Table like I'd been carved out of reclaimed. Oak myself. Laptop open, notes ready. Expression, professionally blank, with just a sprinkle of knowing smirk for flavor. Cousin number 1 walked in first. Pressed shirt. Designer watch. That smug swagger family gatherings had trained me to endure since puberty. But then he saw me. That moment was theater. His entire face did a backflip. Eyes flickered like a dying LED bulb. Smile for his mid, "I'm so charming," and morphed into the facial expression equivalent of biting into something suspiciously citrusy and full of consequences. "You work here?" He asked it like I'd appeared in a dream. A stress dream. I looked up deadpan. And then H&M Senior Sustainability Consultant. Been here a while. Understatement of the decade. As in, I helped build the company from scratch. But yeah, sure, been here a while works too. He chuckled nervously. That polite little laugh people do when they realize they once called you a Pinterest architect, and now might need your approval to pay rent. Before the awkwardness could settle too deeply into the beige carpet, cousin number 2 waltzed in. Now she, bless her, tried to play it cool. The stride was confident. The smile was Botox level forced. But the twitching eye? Oh, that eye was doing Morse code for. What is happening and why is this happening to me? She greeted me like I was a receptionist who'd just eaten her last nerve. Oh, you're part of the interview panel? I nodded, trying very hard not to grin like the cryptic ghost of career past. Lead consultant, yes. You'll be reporting directly to me if things go well. And there it was. That glorious flicker of panic, carefully hidden behind a lip gloss smile and 1,000 hours of LinkedIn workshops on resilience in the workplace. We all sat, then clutching their portfolios like life jackets. Me calm as compost. HR did the formal intro. Sweet soul had no idea. She was witnessing psychological warfare disguised as a competency-based assessment. Then I opened my notes. Now, here's the thing about interviews. They're not just about who you are, they're about what you remember. And I remembered everything. Every backhanded compliment. Every dinner table smirk. Every time I was told. Not everyone's meant for corporate success, and that's okay. So I asked questions. Beautiful, layered questions. Questions that said, tell me about a time you faced adversity in a project and didn't have a cousin to roll your eyes at in the group chat. Cousin number 1 fumbled. Cousin number 2 blinked like a malfunctioning AI assistant. It was divine. But I stayed professional. No jabs, no name dropping. Just enough subtle shade to keep them sweating under their designer collars. By the end of the session, both were thanking me for the opportunity. Through teeth so clenched I could hear the enamel cracking. I walked them out with a polite nod, wished them luck, reminded them we'd be in touch, and then I closed the door and exhaled a sigh of soul-deep generational catharsis. Because that conference room, that wasn't just a place of business. That was a shrine. To every dinner where I was dismissed, every maybe you should try teaching, every you'll understand once you're successful pep talk. In that room for once, I was the one who got to sit back, sip my coffee and watch the family circus try to juggle for me. And the best part? They still didn't know I co-founded the entire firm. Oh, but they would. And that, dear viewer, is what we call setting the scene for ruin with HR-approved lighting. A week had passed since my cousins auditioned for roles. They thought we're beneath them, and I was just beginning to recover from the delicious aftertaste of poetic justice. Then came the email. Pitch meeting scheduled. Potential partnership with. Redacted name of firm so they don't sue me. Representatives. 2 senior partners, family-owned firm. Sounds innocent, right? Like a lovely bit of networking with someone's overly ambitious startup uncle. Except I know that firm. I opened the attachment, and there it was in full Arial font glory. My uncle and aunt's names. Oh, we were doing that today. Now let me paint you a picture. These are the same relatives who once asked me, with full condescension and zero irony, have you thought about applying to be a CAD technician? Just for stability. As if architecture were some sort of elaborate arts and crafts side hustle and not, my career. So when they walked in dressed like LinkedIn threw up on them, I nearly dropped my oat milk flat white. Suits? Tick. Business cards? Tick. Unshakable delusion that they were the smartest people in the room? Oh, tick, tick, tick. They sat across from us, confident as ever, clutching their leather portfolios and prepping their pitch, like they were auditioning for The Apprentice, Family Betrayal Edition. And then the piece de resistance. Anti-PowerPoint. 5 slides in, and I was mentally composing my resignation letter from the human race. We believe our firm can really elevate your operations, she said, voice dripping with the enthusiasm of someone who has definitely just Googled, what is sustainability in business? Elevate our operations. This woman once told me she doesn't separate glass from plastic because it all ends up in the same place anyway. She once brought polystyrene containers to our eco-friendly Eid dinner and argued they were fine because she reused them as seed trays. And now she's pitching my firm a partnership proposal in green architecture with a straight face. I looked around the room. Nobody knew. Not HR, not the admin assistant furiously scribbling notes. Not the junior associate nodding like he understood the jargon. They had no idea that this woman once told me I was wasting my youth drawing plants on buildings. And oh, to be clear, they still didn't recognize me as anything more than staff. To them, I was probably just another exhausted consultant, trapped under fluorescent lighting and a salary cap. Not the co-founder. Not the owner. Just background noise with a MacBook. I leaned back, watched them explain their vision for collaboration, which, by the way, included a PDF mock-up that looked like it was made on Microsoft, paint by someone blindfolded in 2007. If I had a penny for every stock, image of eco handshakes and solar panels from 2012, I could afford therapy for the second-hand embarrassment I endured in that room. But the best part? They thought they were winning. They truly believed they were dazzling us, as if their mid-tier, greenwashed proposal was the golden ticket to our tree-hugging kingdom. As if I'd stand up, clap politely, and say, gosh, you're right. We do need more people who think sustainable. Just means putting plants in the lobby. Reader, I did not clap. I let them finish. Nodded, smiled, took notes. Then calmly said, we'll need some time to consider whether this aligns with our current direction. I'll brief the executive board. My aunt beamed. Uncle nodded knowingly. The board. Oh, sweetie. I am the board. As they left, triumphant, oblivious, I sat in stunned silence. Not because I was speechless, but because I had too much material to process at once. Here they were, pitching my firm. After years of subtle digs, dismissive chats, and pitying me like I was a charity case with a laptop and a dream. And now they were begging for relevance. It's not revenge. It's not even karma. It's just balance. The universe at long last, decided to write a punchline, and I gotta be the one holding the mic. So the PowerPoint finally wheezed to an end. Like a dying office printer that knew its time had come. My aunt and uncle, bless their delusional little hearts, leaned back with the smug satisfaction of two people who've just pitched a revolutionary business plan built on buzzwords, Excel graphs, and 2008 clip art. Silence. The kind of silence that hangs in the air right before a life-changing train wreck. And then my silent partner, the actual CEO on paper. Because, optics gave the signal. Calm, crisp, like he was about to introduce a guest speaker at a TED Talk. Not detonate a generational ego bomb. Our founder will join us shortly. Reader, I wish you could have seen their faces. My uncle turned towards the door with the reverence of a man, awaiting divine intervention. My aunt began straightening her blazer, clearly preparing for a very performative moment of false humility, the type. Oh, we're just so honored to meet whoever this visionary is. Probably rehearsing a line about how they always admired the direction this firm was taking. Sure, Jan. And then I stood up, grabbed my tablet, and walked to the head of the table. No dramatic music, no confetti cannons, just the soul-crushing thud of reality, dropping into their laps like a lead brick wrapped in passive-aggressive glitter. My aunt's soul visibly left her body. Honestly, if she could have melted into the floor tiles, she would have done it without hesitation and apologized to the grout on her way down. My uncle made a noise, not a cough, not a laugh, not a word, just a sort of professional gasp. The kind of sound you make when you realize the person you thought was just staff is actually your last shot at relevance in a firm you don't understand. I sat, crossed my legs, clicked my pen for effect, and smiled like a well-fed cat who's just knocked over your last wine glass. Thank you for your presentation, I began, in the most polite voice I could muster without bursting into full Shakespearean villain monologue. We'll definitely be reviewing your proposal against our existing partnerships and strategic goals. Translation: absolutely not. But I'm going to enjoy watching you pretend to hope. I didn't gloat. Not externally, at least. But inside? Oh, I was doing cartwheels through fields of indication. Barefoot. In slow motion. With a soundtrack. They didn't speak for a full 15 seconds. And if you've never experienced an entire family tree recalibrating its hierarchy in real time, let me tell you, it's better than therapy and cheaper than revenge. And the best part? I never said a word about the past. Never brought up the insults. Never mentioned that time my aunt gave me a job board leaflet over Christmas. Dinner like it was a stocking filler. Didn't reference the fact they once said, real jobs have pensions, while I was busy launching a net zero office complex. No, I just existed. At the top ... in their field. Wearing tailored trousers and holding their fate in a very nicely manicured hand. Because sometimes the best clapback is just being the person they never thought you become, and letting them watch you do it. From the other side of the table, you know that scene in films where the villain gets hoisted by their own petard and the hero delivers a one-liner so clean it deserves a plaque? Yeah, that was me. I gave them polite nods. Very mature. Very professional. The kind of nod you give someone right before casually eviscerating their life's work with a smile and a recycled paper business card. Thank you for your time, I said, with all the warmth of a barista calling out the wrong name on purpose. Unfortunately, your proposal doesn't align with our environmental ethos. Translation: you pitched us a fossil-fueled dinosaur in a hemp-wrapped box and called it innovation. They blinked, smiled, pretended they understood what environmental ethos even meant despite their PowerPoint, featuring exactly one leaf icon and zero clue. But wait, the pettiness gets better. A week later, my darling cousins received the official HR rejection email. Standard format. No flair, no drama. Just enough formality to say, please never apply again, without technically saying it. And me? I may have accidentally added a plant emoji to the end. You know, for branding. And emotional satisfaction. Honestly, it was subtle, classy, eco-conscious vengeance. And frankly, iconic. So here we are. Family functions still roll around, all floral tablecloths, overcooked roasts, and unsolicited career advice from people who think LinkedIn endorsements count as job security. Still doing that little consultancy thing? Someone always asks like I sell organic soap on Etsy and cry into spreadsheets. And I just smile. Because yes, technically I'm just a consultant. Just the one who founded the company. Runs it, expands it. Signs their friends' paychecks and occasionally sits on award panels. Judging emerging talent with a face that says, you wish. Verdant Form now operates in 3 countries. We design buildings that breathe, cities that recycle, and occasionally crush fragile egos under the weight of green innovation. But sure. Aunt Carol, tell me again how your neighbor's son just got a job at Deloitte. Do I correct them? Absolutely not. Let them underestimate me. Let them pass me the butter while explaining how real jobs work. Let them think consultant means unemployed but with business cards. Because the truth? Every time someone hands me a flyer for a recruitment agency or a casual, have you thought about teaching? I'm already too busy signing contracts, managing expansions, and quietly hiring the children of the people who once doubted me. And the best part? I do it all in a tasteful blouse, sipping oat milk flat whites, while pretending I still don't understand pensions. Final thought? Revenge isn't loud. It doesn't need shouting, slamming doors, or a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's just staying seated at the table you built, while everyone else awkwardly asks if there's room. There isn't, but they're welcome to water the plants.